All right, let's just jump right in. Picture this. You're going about your day, completely normal, right? Maybe you're running errands, thinking about what to make for dinner, and then boom, reality itself just cracks. Something happens that's completely impossible, and for an entire community, the world is never, ever the same again. So where did it all start? Well, it began with this one simple observation. A resident, just out getting supplies, looks up and sees something that just flat out shouldn't be there. They said the heavens opened up, and from that tear in the sky came creatures, things nobody had ever seen before. And that was the very first sign that something fundamental had just snapped. But here's where it gets really, really weird. It's how they appeared. It wasn't some big flashy invasion with explosions. Another witness described it as a trickle, like they just sort of seeped into existence. That one little detail makes it so much stranger, right? It's not an attack. It's more like a leak from another reality. And this quote, well, it just perfectly captures that feeling hanging over the entire village. It's a question everyone is asking. This isn't some distant event on the news. These things are right there, enveloping them, changing the very air they breathe. So how on earth do you even begin to deal with something like that? Well, as you can probably guess, the reactions are all over the place. I mean, for some people, this is a moment of pure, deep existential dread. But for others, it's a massive inconvenience. And that contrast, that's what paints such a fascinating and kind of human picture of a town trying to wrap its head around the unbelievable. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On one side, you've got a resident who feels this constant nagging anxiety, this feeling that safety itself has just evaporated. But on the other side, you have someone who's mostly just annoyed. They insist they're not scared, but this whole reality-breaking thing is seriously getting in the way of them going to the movies. But here's the kicker. It's not just about the creatures. Oh no. The changes are subtle. They're creepy, and they're everywhere. The trees look wrong. The water doesn't taste right. Boulders are just showing up. And get this, space itself is glitching. You can trip and fall and literally be transported somewhere else. Even the people are changing, growing quieter, more withdrawn. The whole world is fraying at the edges. Okay, so when your world is slowly becoming a place you don't recognize, you can't just sit back and watch, right? For some of the villagers, doing nothing is not an option. They decide they have to do something. Anything, to figure out what is going on, and that's when the hunt for answers really begins. This is the question, the one question that's driving all of them. It's so simple, but it feels completely impossible to answer. If all these bizarre things, the creatures, the weird water, the teleporting falls, if those are all just the symptoms, what's the disease? What is fundamentally wrong with their reality? And right away, we start to see these different investigation styles pop up. One person suggests a kind of crowdsourced effort. Let's all pool our clues together and build a collage of what's happening. Another is all about the physical evidence, collecting items, convinced the answer lies in science. And then there's a third, who hints that there's already a secret group working on it, whispering that if you're asking the right questions, certain doors would be open to you. Ooh, mysterious. But just as they're getting started, just when you think things couldn't possibly get any weirder, the anomaly throws them another curveball, something totally out of left field, something that sounds a little like this. Yep, you heard that right. The source of that sound wasn't human. A dog in the village can suddenly talk, and it has thoughts and theories, and it's just as baffled as everyone else. I mean, this just changes everything. The phenomenon isn't just outside of them anymore, it's literally changing the nature of consciousness itself. A dog is now officially on the investigation team. So you've got your grassroots investigators, and now they're talking dog colleague, but they're not the only ones trying to figure this all out. The village sages, the deep thinkers, are on the case too. And they're looking at this not just as a problem to be solved, but as a profound philosophical mystery. And what is so cool here is how incredibly different their theories are. You've got one sage who thinks it's some kind of unknown chemistry, and the solution is a ritualistic dance. Okay. Then another proposes this beautifully poetic idea. It's the loneliness of ancient rocks finally manifesting itself. Wow! And a third is all about physics. Convinced these creatures have a power source that they can just switch off, if they can find this legendary theoretical tome. All right, so from the poets and the philosophers, we're going to pivot to the scientists. The village researchers are bringing logic and the scientific method to a situation that seems to laugh in the face of both. But even their best hypotheses are pushed right to the very edge of reality. So scientist number one has this really fascinating physical theory. Let's just walk through the logic. Step one, the creatures came from above. Step two, what's above us? Clouds. Step three, they didn't just fall, they coalesced, kind of like rain. Step four, what forms when moisture coalesces on the ground? Fog. So the wild conclusion? These creatures are a form of living, breathing, sentient fog. But scientist number two, oh, this one's a total mind-bender. They're proposing a psychophysical link. The idea here is that all the weird physical changes happening in the village, they're not the cause. They're the effect of a psychological shift happening inside the villagers' heads. Basically, their collective thoughts are literally rewriting the world around them. And this just perfectly sets up the central scientific debate, doesn't it? You have these two competing ideas. Is this whole thing an external event, a bizarre but natural phenomenon like living fog? Or is it an internal event, made real? Is the cause somewhere out there in the sky, or is it inside their own minds? So at the end of the day, there's no single easy answer. And what we're left with is this incredible tapestry of human and, canine responses. You see fear, you see practical annoyance, you see scientific curiosity and poetic philosophy, all scrambling to make sense of the impossible. The real story here isn't finding the solution. It's watching how people react when the very map of their reality gets torn up and redrawn. And that's the question that just hangs in the air. When the world you thought you knew starts to unravel, where do you look for the answer? Do you look up at the sky, or do you look inside yourself? And maybe, just maybe, is that line between our minds and the world not nearly as solid as we think it is?